I didn't know I was going to have to hold one of these mics, so feel free to let me know if I need to go up or down. I've literally never talked with a microphone before. So thank you, PatientPop, for having us. Thank you, JS.LA. Thank you, the community. But most specifically, thank you, JS.LA, for getting me up here. You see, it all started back at the JS.LA Soiree 2017. The JS.LA Soiree is this end-of-year kind of wrap-up party that we have in December. And that's when I was talking with Ryan, one of the facilitators here at JS.LA. I just recently found out tonight he moved to go work with Amazon at AWS, so he wasn't here tonight for me to point him out in the crowd as I had planned to. So I was talking with Ryan, and I said, you know, I'd really like to do a talk. I've always wanted to do a talk. It's something I've never figured out how to do. And he's like, are you serious? We'd love to bring you on. Do you know what you would do your talk on? So it had just been a few months prior to this conversation I'm having with Ryan. I had just stumbled across this YouTube video on imposter syndrome. I had never heard, I've been in the industry for nearly 20 years and I'd never heard of this term imposter syndrome. And in fact, I was talking with my friend tonight, Tim, and he said, what's imposter syndrome? So this talk really connected with me. I realize now in retrospect, I had this ghost kind of following me around. And as it connected with me, I thought, you know, this community could really use some information on imposter syndrome. You would think everyone knew about imposter syndrome, but there I was, sitting in my car, I believe in the middle of a parking lot, just having stumbled across this video. So as I'm sitting there with Ryan, I said, yes, I know exactly what I give the talk on. I want to give the talk on imposter syndrome. You see, imposter syndrome is, it's a feeling. It's not something, I mean, there's lots of different data out there. It's really hard to put into words. And if any of you have felt it or you find that you feel it after connecting with it yourself. So what it means to me and what I found, it's this sense of just kind of getting here by luck. Not giving yourself credit for those things that you deserve. Feeling unqualified, even though your accomplishments show you the exact opposite. Having a problem with being comfortable with those titles. I hate titles. That fear of being found out, that it's all just luck. It's the story of my life and what I'm going to share with you tonight. Now, originally I was going to give this talk with a bunch of data and a bunch of graphs over my head. There's tons of information on imposter syndrome. It's hiding in plain sight. But that's just it. Everyone talks about the data. There's YouTube videos, there's podcasts, there's blog posts, there's TED Talks, as what I stumbled upon. And they end every one of those talks with a footnote that says, it would be great if everyone started talking about this. It would be great to bring this to the surface of conversation. So that's what I'm doing here tonight. We're all smart people. We can go Google the definition on Wikipedia of what imposter syndrome is. What I hope to do tonight is to share with you what imposter syndrome does, at least what it did to me. So it was in that conversation that I'm having with Ryan that I say, yes, I'd really like to do that talk on imposter syndrome. We were there in the Culver Hotel. I can remember it vividly. He calls over David. David, Adam's going to do a talk on imposter syndrome. When can we sign you up? Whoa. I said I want to give a talk. I'd love to give a talk. But you want me to commit? What makes me so special? What makes you so special, David says. You've been coming for years. We've gotten to know you a little bit. You've incorporated yourself since 2005. You're still at it. You've been in the industry since 1996 when it all got started. And you think you have nothing to contribute? You've gotten married, had a daughter, raised a family, and you're still at it, and you have nothing to contribute? And I said, yep. At least that's how I felt on the inside. So he's like, no way, man. Our community could really use this. We're struggling every day to keep up with the technology. Every day there's something new. Someone's breaking the rules. So we can't help but feel this way sometimes. So I was jazzed. They got me pumped. I went home, I talked with my wife. I'm like, you know what? I'm finally going to give a talk. And she's like, go. Tell me when to be there. I will be there, and my wife and my daughter are here tonight. Mind you, this was a year ago, so there's a little bit of story in between. I woke up that next morning completely jazzed, completely excited to give that talk. Got in front of my computer, JS.LA/contribute. What's your name? What's the title? What makes you so special to give that talk? Now, mind you, that's not what it said, but that's how I read it. Click. I closed that browser and said, maybe tomorrow. I said maybe tomorrow for almost a year. So now, on top of the fact that I didn't do the talk, I'm carrying along the feeling of having not done the talk. And every month I'm apologizing for have not done the talk and carrying that guilt. So let's flash back a little. I've been in the web industry since 1996. Started out at a small ISP, internet service provider, those dial-up modem nonsense that some of us still remember. It was the only way to really get on the internet. It was that or AOL, and AOL's not really the internet. So I started off at that ISP, I leveled up, I gained my experiences. I kept growing and growing. But each time I leveled up, each time I took on that new challenge, each time I proved myself and I got that positive feedback, I somehow told myself, but you don't know what you're doing. How could this all be real? See, there's this real disconnect when it comes to imposter syndrome. It's like you do it and then you don't believe that you've done it, even though you just did it. And for those of you who have felt it, I believe you can connect with what I just said. For those of you who have not, it just sounds crazy, but it's real. Context. So my imposter syndrome kept growing. How could I receive these positive affirmations, these positive reinforcements? How could I be doing so much with so many people for so long and still feel this way? Somehow they've overlooked the fact that I just don't know what I'm doing. So it was through these series of events and me believing that it all just happened by accident. I just accidentally did this. I accidentally made the right decision. I accidentally, luckily. I found myself leaving the corporate world in 2005. I walked out the doors and incorporated myself with my own consulting business in 2006. But it wasn't until the recent years that I started to recognize how much that imposter syndrome had taken hold of me. You see, back in 2005, when I walked out those corporate doors, I started my own consulting business. Unbeknownst to me, I had lit a fire under that imposter. I've been carrying this from the very beginning, and I had no idea. The imposter had taken hold of me to not rock the boat. I had to get comfortable. You know, you only got here by luck. Let's not rock the boat. Let's not ride this. Excuse me. There's too much riding on this. See, before I left the corporate world in 2001, I got married. Now, after leaving the corporate world, we had our daughter, Casey. Then in 2009, just by luck, the market fell, and we just luckily bought a house. Do you get the theme here? It's luck, 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 luck. Each time leveling up, each time taking on more responsibility, each time feeling like I had to play it safe because I wasn't taking the value of what came before. I allowed myself to get comfortable, to keep things steady and dependable. I allowed that imposter to take over and tell me, this is all you're going to get. Don't rock the boat. And from 2005 until somewhere in 2010, 2011, I was on autopilot. It was only later in those years that I started to realize, what are you doing? I feel like I haven't learned a thing. You see, when I walked out of the corporate world, I just walked out to that place of being comfortable, and I pressed play. Now it's time to catch up. So I pushed myself to go to this conference in San Francisco, late 2012. It was a conference for Appcelerator, the latest and greatest JavaScript native JavaScript mobile development platform. Before React Native, before anyone really knew what they were doing with it. So, having been excited, not sleeping well the night before, driving 6.5 hours to San Francisco, I walk in, I register, and I see that very night as the hackathon. I'd never been in a hackathon, but how lucky was it that here I was. So I thought, what better way to level up? What better way to engage? What better way to network than to jump into the hackathon? So I signed up. I was assigned to a table. I was assigned to a group. I sat down at that table and I said, you know what, guys? I am here to support you. I don't know what I'm doing. Mind you, before the conference, I had taken their certification program, passed it with flying colors, and even shared during that event with a couple of people at the table my score, which not that we're counting, but sometimes they were sharing with me their score, and my score was better than them, but I'm feeling like I am nothing. So I just said, I'm here to support you. In fact, I said one other thing too. I said, you know, I don't know the API, I don't know the framework. I just want to be a part of this. I want to get to know you guys at this table. I want to get to know the people around me. I just want to be a part of this. I swear, I said, can I just get you coffee? Let me be the one to help you stay up all night. Let me be the one. Just don't tell me to go. Just let me be a part. And it was throughout that night it was sitting at that table with the other people, realizing as I was sharing with them things that I knew, that things started to break a little. See, these were other people at the table. They had their own businesses. They had their own consulting firms. They were supporting their clients. They were supporting their employers. And yet I had something to offer. And at times, I was sharing with them when they were getting stuck. It was at that conference that I met a gentleman named Christian Sullivan, who was a previous talker here at JS.LA, June of 2012. He just happened to luckily be at the conference in San Francisco. He just happened to luckily live in Orange County and be a local member as well. So we connected. After we got back from that conference, I connected with him, or he connected with me, whichever way it was, and we ended up at my first JS.LA together. Early 2013. I didn't look it up in the YouTube videos, but I can tell you exactly which talk it was. It was a talk on lambdas. I sat down in that talk, and for the first half of the talk, I'm thinking, I don't belong here. What the heck is a lambda? But I sat there, I pushed through. And by the end of the talk, what is a lambda? It's just a function. Why didn't somebody tell me that in the beginning? But I very quickly found myself back on autopilot. I spent the next couple of years coming to JS.LA, but I was feeling like that fly on the wall. Not contributing, just kind of hanging out in the back, because I truly felt like the elephant in the room. You see, I built my whole career on PHP. I wasn't a JavaScript developer. Ooh, that horrible language it is, right? PHP just happened to be that one language at that one web design company, that one developer just didn't happen to write in. He had written in 20 other languages. He was writing way before the web came along. He'd been around a long time. And I asked him, do you write in PHP? And he said, no, I don't have time to pick up another language. Everything was written in Perl at that point in time. This is 99, 2000, 2001. But as the bubble burst and the web design company started falling apart, our whole worlds were falling apart. I luckily saw an opportunity. So I taught myself PHP, porting over the Perl e-commerce platform that we had been selling to our clients, feature by feature, so that when those clients came back around asking for support from a web design company that had then dissolved, I was there to catch them. And for those that were interested, I'd move them over feature for feature onto a PHP version that mimicked the Perl version that they had been using. This was all by sheer luck. So there I sit, JS.LA, 2013. 2014, 2015, feeling like that elephant in the room. It was later that year, sometime 2015, I think, that I started hearing JS.LA pitch Node School. And I thought, you know what, I really need to level up. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to Node School. I'm going to start breaking out of this shell. So Tim and I actually went to that Node School together over at Codesmith at their old location. Sat there in class, and I started to learn a little bit about Node on the back end. I've been using JavaScript on the front end for years, but I started to get an idea of how it could apply on the back end. So at the end of that class, I pushed myself up, I stood up, I pushed myself away to the desk, and I walked over to David and Ryan and Jacob and several others that were hanging out. And as I approached them, David said, "Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm glad you could make it." And I'm thinking, you know my name? You recognize that I've been here? And he's like, "Man, you've been one of the longest standing members that I can remember. You're consistently coming every single month." I thought I had just been that fly on the wall. My barriers started to break, and then imposter started to lie down. So I started to use that. I started to break through those feelings. So here we are again. This time JS.LA 2018, just a few months ago at the soiree. And I'm sitting with Ryan again, talking about doing that talk on imposter syndrome. You see, I never gave up on myself. I had just given up on committing to that talk. I had given up filling out that form. I had given up committing, but I was still determined to understand the feelings. So the research was being done, the podcasts were being listened to, and I was digesting the information. I was becoming to recognize those feelings inside and how I had cultivated them, how it was natural and how it affects so many of us, and how if you're a high-functioning person, if you're really pushing yourself, how it can actually be a good thing. How it can actually be your true north. And if you're feeling these feelings, then maybe you're not if you're not feeling these feelings, then maybe you're not pushing yourself too hard. You're not pushing yourself to the edge. So I fought by sheer determination to give this talk. Boy, if I could tell you the month I've had. I fought by sheer determination to understand these feelings better, to be able to give this talk tonight. And I learned to get over myself and start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. You see, if we could just learn to bring this out to the surface, if we could recognize that we're not the only ones, if we could come to understand that this affects everyone, from the new hire all the way up to the CEO, and that statistically 70% of us, whether it's for personal, academic, or professional reasons, have all at some point felt these feelings. If we could bring this to conversations, if we could be humble enough to say, you know what? I'm really not sure I belong here. Is it okay that I say that? Is it okay that I feel that without you confirming that it's true? If we could learn to get over ourselves and start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, then we could use this feeling as a superpower, as a true north, as a way of double checking that we're pushing ourselves hard enough, and a way to keep ourselves off autopilot. Thank you very much.